when you were talking about, having the day job and the passion job, which we both have, and I'm fortunate enough that my passion job is, got to overtake any aspect of filling the gaps. I think it's important to have that flexibility because you never know where a contact comes from. Like I've had times where I've had no work on, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's from a contact that I made years ago through another friend, and or because I just came out for the day to help out.
Sure.
Whatever. Like you don't know where these things come from, so you've always got to try and make yourself available, and always go out and give 100% to whatever you do. I've turned down countless short films and little projects like that aren't really paying me enough to survive, but that's not always an issue for me. If I can't give my all to a project, then I don't want to be there, because you just end up giving yourself a bad name, rather than what you're trying to achieve. The whole point of taking something that maybe doesn't have money on offer is to make more contacts, to build up your resume, and to have something to show people. Now, if you're trying to cram that in to an otherwise already busy schedule, and you're not going to give them the time to get it done right, or you're not going to give yourself the time to get it done right, then it just seems to backfire, which is a shame, because a lot of people forget that you're doing them a favor.
Absolutely.
But it's important to just remember that. And quite often, I don't know how that would work for you, but I used to, when someone used to call me up for a short film in the early days, and they would say like, yeah, we're going to shoot a short film in 6 days, which amazed me, because I've shot, like you can shoot an hour's worth of TV in 6 days if you really wanted to, which I've done. But sometimes if I've not been so sure about it, or it's not something that people I've already known, I would quite often say, well, look, I can offer you a day or two, right? Or I'll come out and boom a couple of days. And the people that are worth working for come back and say, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
We'd love to use you. We'll be in touch. The people that aren't worth working for are the ones that are like, well, this is ludicrous. We need someone for the whole week. They're trying to, and you're asking more, not realizing the worth that you're giving them, right? By 2 days of your time.
It's worth a lot.
Has a big value to it, even
That's
if you're just starting out. And it's important to remember that. And if you can do the job, you're worth it. So.
Do you I suppose that kind of one of the questions I had was like, if you've got any kind of advice for people starting in the field, which I know is a very hard question for anyone in our industry to offer up, because I personally, from my perspective, don't think there's a preset route that you can take.
There isn't. No, there isn't.
So would you say your advice is literally get out there, mess up, learn from it, buy some kit, don't spend too much money, do some projects, go to a good film school that can get you some connections?
Yeah, like if you can get to a film school, or there are, any advice I give now is pre-COVID-19, so I don't know how many of these apprenticeship programs, but I know the British Film Institute had like a trainee program, especially from people from, minority backgrounds, or harder, people that would historically find it harder to get into the film industry. Skill set, I don't know if they're still around, but they are kind of funded by the government to help training in the film industry and the media industry. If failing that, then look at these hire companies. Like I say, one of the benefits of you, say, instead of buying the Neumann off Amazon or whatever, if you hire one, every time you go to hire it, you go into a kit room and you meet other people, and there might be someone else hiring a Neumann next to you, right? Like you don't, it's another way to connect. So if you can reach out to these companies that, the rental companies, you can get in there, start at the ground, learn the gear, and then you start to meet other sound people coming in and saying, I want to come out. Or like, why have you just rented
this
50 microphones? Yeah, why have you got 50 microphones? Do you need a hand? I'll just come out, So many opportunities available to you. So
be open.
Be open, smile. You never know who is really who. Like I try to be kind to everyone on a film set. It's hard when you're tired, but everyone's part of the team, and I've seen people take it out on the runners or people like that, and I just don't see the point. They're not the people in charge. They're just relaying the information. But also, 5 years later, that runner could be a producer, right?
That's right.
You have to be kind to everyone. And,
It's a small. It's definitely a small industry. It's definitely if you even going through like looking through Facebook, you meet a new connection and you're like, oh, hang about, him and her, and oh, okay, I did that, and you suddenly start to see the picture develop. So I think there's part of that. I mean, I think it's difficult because I definitely I can remember taking up a project that was going to be for free, as a feature film for free, and like, wow, that's for a composer to write, 60 minutes of music or whatever for free, and whatever else, which I was open to, and I said I'd do it. But I think it's like you say, it's how then I think there was a period of time where I got an email on like a Friday night, and I thought, well, I'll get back to that on Monday, and it's like, there was then a question mark about my commitment, and I kind of thought, well, you're not paying me, dude. Like, this is going to be quite an uptaking, and I didn't email you back on a Friday night, and so maybe I had the wrong attitude there. But the project never took off. It never went anywhere. It never was shot.
Yeah. This is where you have to kind of gauge, and I get better at reading. I would always get an email, right? And I read the email, and you get better at gauging, what they're offering, right? Like, and who they are as a person and how they're going to treat you, right?
That's right.
Like, if someone was emailing me on a Friday night or something about that, I would either expect them, if they wanted a response, I would expect them to explain the urgency and appreciate that it's my weekend, or just ignore it and be happy that I responded on a Monday, right?
That's right.
You have to protect yourself.
I think that's right. I think it's, I suppose from my point of view is that, like, it's like there wasn't much gratitude there that, actually I was willing to engage in, and I was starting to network, because I always do that. If I'm working on a film, I like to try and talk to the actors, the actresses. I like to kind of, if I can, I'll go down to the set and sort of see what's going on. And there's always quite an intense relationship between, in my experience anyway, between the composer and the director is always quite intense.
Yes.
And you have to invest a lot of time talking about a lot of subjects. I'll start talking about philosophy, and like what's your favorite philosopher will be normally depending on who it is, obviously, but that's normally a question, because it's like I'm trying to actually get inside their brain and understand how they see the world, because how they see the world is going to be the color of their film.
Mm-hmm.
And that is quite you should be in the studio writing the cues, but actually you're out in a coffee shop in the center of London, talking about all these kind of things, because you're trying to build that relationship. And I think you touched on a really good point there, where I have tried to, is it worth me kind of going through that? Is this project gonna, I suppose if you take Scarlett Johansson working on something like Under the Skin, really weird move, you could say, for her, but I kind of understand it is keeping her in that indie sort of it's a smart move. It's keeping you in. It's keeping her keeping her grounded. That's right.
It's like for a composer, it could be really easy to go off and make a load of money writing jingles for adverts or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But nobody's in it for that.
No.
Right. So I always find the same, and that's why I think I said earlier, like, the money isn't always important to me, but I want to be treated fairly, right? And some of the best short films I've ever made, I was paid minimum wage, and everyone was paid minimum wage. It didn't matter who you were, and everyone was paid the same. And I felt appreciative about that. And actually, I did one short film where I was paid minimum wage, where we wrapped on late on a Friday night, and we had a little wrap party on the Saturday. And I woke up very late on the Saturday, and I just checked my bank, and my invoice had already been paid. And I went to the wrap party and said to the producer, like, wow, why have you paid my invoice already? I only just sent it in last night when we wrapped. And he said, well, you're working for me for next to nothing. It's the bottom that I could pay anyone. The least I could do is make sure it was in your account as soon as I could.
It's a good point.
And so you need to, and you develop, depending on what kind of work you're doing in the sound industry or whatever, you need to find questions that you can ask people that help you understand who they are and how they're going to treat you. Are they going to treat you fairly
or not?
Or not. And then but then you still have to be careful if you're working for free. Like with that feature film you did, that could have an adverse effect on your career if you went about it the wrong way.
Precisely that, and I think it's touching on what you said there as well. I've had it as well, where it's like oh, well, we're sort of paying certain people, we're not paying other people. And I'm thinking, so hang
Yeah,
about
well,
it.
no, yeah, it's hard to pay a composer fair, right? And often I'm the only paid person on a film set because everyone wants to shoot, everyone wants to act. You know,
That's right.
Composers are always looking to try and get their music out there, but
That's
to get
right.
a guy to stand on set with a stupid boom in his hand, right? Nobody wants to do that, and nobody can do it well.